So I decided to take one more crack at flat lay photography, and I went and got some tools and headed out to the woods again and used another background that I had looked at and didn't use. So it's going to work really well. I think it's exciting, and I hope this helps you kind of model what process you'll go through for your shoot. So hope you enjoy. All right, so yesterday I scouted this spot out, and I knew I wanted to use this stump, but I didn't know exactly how. And to try and thin down and like change my theme and color tone, I got these tools here, and I'm kind of wanting to work with wood and the tools that you'd use. So I brought the saw, axe, little Bear Grylls knife, some gloves, an axe sharpener, some wet fire tinder, and a lighter. I think that's it. But when I look around and I start to see other things that are here, I've got this stick right here. I'm probably going to make some use of that. And I can't quite set this up at the same time, but this is kind of your first step, is to gather your materials, know what your background is going to be, and then that's where you're going to rearrange, play with light, start thinking about the elements. I did happen to have a happy accident in terms of the colors. All of these are blacks, and Fiskars is the tool that I've bought for the last couple of years. They're using a lot of oranges and blacks, and it just so happened that the Bear Grylls uses grays and oranges. So I've got basically a color palette of three. You got orange, gray, and black, and then the wood is kind of a single texture. There's a little bit of you can't see it, but there's a tilt and a curve to it, and definitely there's like long shadows. So I might find some way to play with the shadows as well, intentionally. All right, so chances are this might roll over to the side, but at least you'll get the idea. So this is my first arrangement, and what I tried to do here was to take the shadow of the axe and kind of connect it with the glove. I split a little bit of wood to suggest the fire, put a fold on that, and then placed the fire making elements here. And then I was trying to get this reflective surface out of the shadow so that I could take advantage of some of that reflection. And it's kind of a balancing act here to get that out of the shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of photos. You should be able to see, once you start to tilt the camera down, there's the little X's I was talking about, and when it's off or close, there's a white X, which is where you're pointing, and a yellow X, which is again the zenith. So it's kind of a trick here to get out of the way, and I'm so far out of the way I can't even really see. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to get a little bit closer here and really work that zenith until the crosshair is complete, or when the two connect, and that's just one single crosshair. So I'm going to take a couple of photos, even though this is still the same arrangement. I'm just going to get a little bit closer. And I know I can crop this later. And those are my two. So that's the first setup. I am going to do a couple more setups, but I don't know if there's a need. I will show you the finished product and see what I was able to work with, but I can see now that there's definitely an advantage to having fewer objects to work with, because then you get to be much more intentional about each object. And the more clutter I would have had here, the harder that would have been to do. All right. All right, setup 2, in case I do decide to add this in and edit. I know this may be a little funky, but you still should be able to see it even though I'm seeing it in landscape mode. I wanted to try something a little different, catch more of the blade edge of the axe, and I'm hoping, and that's actually looking pretty good, I'm getting a nice reflection off the sharp edge of the axe. I also added, so I changed the arrangement and I'm centering on fire. I suppose I could recrop that later to get it in a different hot spot. It just starts to fall off too much. So again, I'm working with that zenith line, trying to get that centered, and I can do a lot of my edits later. Maybe change the angle on this just a bit. I'd love to have that reflecting too, but I'm going to take a picture now before the sun moves on me. And we get 1, and then 2. And again, each one of these counts as one arrangement, but I'm just taking 2 pictures in case one of them was out of focus. Okay, for setup number 3, I decided to bring everything a lot closer And I know it's going to be a little upside down, but I think you'll be able to work with it just because I'm moving the camera around and I think it records vertically. But I brought all the elements closer together, and that's going to cause me to bring my camera a little bit lower. And still working on the zenith. And what I'm really trying to do here is get just the perfect angle where I can see more of the reflection off of some of the surfaces. And that's a trick because the light's constantly changing, but I'm still catching that knife edge. And I'm going to do, just as an experiment, kind of a wide angle so I can bring it even closer. So it's the same composition with a slightly different focal length, and that might have a different impact. Again, I'm starting to crop it now, but I can crop a little more later. All right, that's... So if there was a theme to my changes, it's see what happens when you get closer. Again, this is just me experimenting. This is the fourth iteration. I'm going to try to keep this in some sort of order so you don't get too dizzy watching it. And I am hoping that I can play a little bit with proportion and get a shot where the blade edge is the subject, and I'm using... that's perfect. Now this is not an exact flat face, so I need to try my best to keep that zenith. It changes the composition a lot, actually. So in the fly, since I know what I'm trying to do, I'm just gonna move a couple of things on the spot here and see if I can't get that there with the blade edges. And the theme here is the blade edges. So I'm gonna play around with cropping a little bit later, but really just try to make sure that I've got to be directly over that edge to catch it. And I'm going to do one more arrangement since I've already done 4 to get to the 5th one. All right, for the final setup, again, I brought things closer. I was actually trying to put things into the shape of the saw blade, and I'm running out of light because of the low angle. I also added this detail here where the wood is being partially split by the blade. And then, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I did put a little saw mark on another larger piece of wood. So I'm going to take a couple pictures of this, and this will be my 5th set. Again, working for that zenith, perfect mark. And then I'm going to get a little bit closer so that I have some variety here. And I could still edit further if I want to, but I guess I want about that much to start with. All right, that's the 5th one.